The Old Hag is one of the most famous sleep-related stories in the world, especially in Newfoundland, Canada. For hundreds of years, people living there told stories of waking up in the middle of the night and suddenly feeling a heavy weight on their chest. When they opened their eyes, they thought they saw an old woman sitting on them, breathing heavily, staring at them, or holding them down. They tried to move or shout, but their bodies would not respond. They felt trapped, helpless, and terrified. Because people did not understand how sleep and the brain worked at that time. They believed a real supernatural being, an old, ghost-like woman, was attacking them during the night. This idea became known as the Old Hag, and the stories surrounding it were passed down for generations. To understand why this story became so powerful, it helps to imagine the daily life of people many years ago. Newfoundland was a place with long winters, dark nights, and small communities spread far apart. People relied on stories to make sense of the world, especially things that felt frightening or mysterious. When someone experienced the Old Hag, it felt extremely real and deeply physical. They were awake enough to be aware of their surroundings, the room, the bed, the darkness, but their bodies could not move. In this strange half-awake state, their minds produced images or sensations that they did not understand. Instead of thinking, "my brain is confused," they naturally thought something outside of themselves, a spirit or creature, was visiting. One of the strongest parts of the Old Hag story is the feeling of pressure on the chest. Many people in Newfoundland describe this as the old woman climbing onto them or sitting on their ribcage, making it hard to breathe. Some said she leaned in close, almost touching their faces. Others said she seemed to whisper or mutter, though they could not make out the words. A few people even said they felt her long fingers pressing on their shoulders or gripping their arms. These sensations were extremely vivid and felt like they were happening in real life, not in a dream. Another important detail is the inability to move. People would try to shout for help, but their voices felt trapped inside. They tried to move their arms or legs, but it was like they were glued to the bed. Some described the feeling as being frozen, pinned down, or chained. This helplessness made the experience even more frightening. Imagine waking up and being fully aware of your surroundings, but discovering that your body cannot respond at all. Now add the feeling that someone or something is in the room with you. This mix of fear, confusion, and immobility created the perfect conditions for the belief that a supernatural being was attacking. The image of an old woman became central to the story. People did not all see the exact same figure, but the descriptions shared similarities. Most said she looked like a thin, shadowy woman with messy hair, wrinkled skin, and old-fashioned clothing. She rarely spoke, but created a strong sense of presence, almost like she was watching or judging the person she sat on. Some thought she was a hag, which in folklore is a word for a witch or an evil old woman. Others believed she was a spirit of someone who had died long ago, still roaming the earth and tormenting the living. Because people in the past often blamed strange events on ghosts or magical beings, the Old Hag story fit naturally into their beliefs. As the years passed, more and more people reported similar experiences. This made it seem even more real. If one person says they saw something strange, people might doubt it. But when many people describe the same frightening event, it becomes part of cultural belief. Parents told their children about the Old Hag. Children grew up hearing the stories long before they ever experienced sleep paralysis themselves. So when they eventually did have an episode, because sleep paralysis is extremely common, they already had a story ready in their mind to explain it. Their brains took that story and shaped the hallucination in the same way others had described. In this way, folklore and biology work together to create a shared experience. Now let's look at this incident from a modern scientific perspective. Today, we understand that the Old Hag experience matches almost perfectly with what we call sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis happens when your brain wakes up before your body does. When you sleep, especially in the dreaming stage called REM sleep, your body becomes temporarily paralyzed. This is normal and protects you from acting out your dreams. But sometimes your brain becomes awake and alert while your body is still in that paralyzed state. This creates a strange and frightening condition where you are conscious but unable to move. During sleep paralysis, the brain is still partly dreaming. This means dreamlike images can appear in the real world around you. These hallucinations often take the form of shadows, figures, or shapes that feel threatening. Many people worldwide describe seeing a dark human figure, a monster, or even an animal-like creature. The exact shape often depends on cultural beliefs. In Newfoundland, because people believed in the Old Hag, they were more likely to see a female figure. In other countries, people see different shapes. The important point is that the hallucination comes from the mind, not from something outside the body. The pressure on the chest, which people interpreted as the hag sitting on them, also has a scientific explanation. When you wake up during REM sleep, your chest muscles are still partly relaxed, and your breathing is slow and shallow. This can make it feel like something heavy is pressing down on you. The brain, confused and frightened, tries to explain the sensation. Many people interpret it as a weight, a creature, or a person sitting on their chest. Because the brain is trying to make sense of unfamiliar signals, the image can become incredibly realistic. Another common feature of sleep paralysis is a strong sense of presence. Even without seeing a figure, many people report feeling like someone is watching them, standing near the bed or touching them. This sensation also comes from the brain being caught between dream and wakefulness. The mind is alert but vulnerable, scanning the environment for danger. It creates the feeling that someone is there, even when no one is. This presence can be interpreted based on culture. An old hag, a ghost, a demon, or simply a shadowy stranger. Knowing this scientific explanation does not make the experience any less frightening. Even today, many people who understand sleep paralysis still feel terrified when it happens. The Old Hag stories from Newfoundland show how powerful and realistic these episodes can feel. People who experienced them were not imagining things in a playful or casual way. They were genuinely frightened, and the sensations were intense enough to convince them that a real entity was in their room. Over time, the Old Hag became more than just an explanation for a scary night. She became a symbol used in storytelling, warnings, and even humor. Some people believe the hag visited those who misbehaved or those who kept secrets. Others thought she came because the person had done something wrong or had angered a spirit. Still others believed she targeted people for no reason at all, which made her even scarier because she could strike anyone at any time. In many Newfoundland communities, people shared advice on how to avoid the hag. Some said you should sleep on your side instead of your back because lying on your back was believed to invite her in. Interestingly, this matches modern knowledge too. Sleep paralysis is more likely when people sleep on their backs. Others said you should leave a light on or recite a prayer before bed. A few believed that keeping a Bible near your bed would keep the hag away. These ideas helped people feel safer, even though the real cause was inside the brain, not outside. The Old Hag legend also helped people feel less alone. Imagine experiencing sleep paralysis for the first time with no understanding of what it is. You might panic, think you are dying, or think something paranormal is happening. But when people heard that others had gone through the same thing, it created a shared experience. Communities bonded over these stories, and the legend became part of their cultural heritage. Even though the events were terrifying, talking about them brought people together. Today, the Old Hag phenomenon is still discussed in Newfoundland and other places. Many people still use the term hagged to describe waking up unable to move. Even though scientific knowledge is more widespread now, cultural stories have a strong influence on how people interpret their experiences. A person who grows up hearing about the Old Hag might be more likely to see an old woman during sleep paralysis simply because that image is already stored in their mind. Others might see a shadow figure or a stranger. The human brain tends to choose familiar shapes when creating hallucinations. The beauty of the Old Hag story lies in its connection between folklore and science. It shows how humans use stories to understand things we cannot explain. For people in the past, sleep paralysis was mysterious and terrifying, so they created a story that gave the experience a face and a name. Today, we know the biological cause, but the stories still carry meaning. They remind us of how powerful the mind can be and how deeply cultural beliefs shape our understanding of the world. In conclusion, the Old Hag incident is a fascinating example of the connection between the human mind, cultural storytelling, and the science of sleep. People in Newfoundland truly believed they were being attacked by a supernatural old woman, but what they were experiencing was a real and natural condition that affects millions of people: sleep paralysis. The sensations, paralysis, chest pressure, hallucinations, and fear were all real, even though the hag herself was not. This makes the story both mysterious and understandable. It is a reminder that the mind can create powerful illusions, especially in the fragile space between sleeping and waking. The Old Hag is not a real creature, but the experiences people had with her were absolutely real to them, which is why the legend survived for so long and remains an important part of folklore today.